So many HVAC owners obsess over lead volume, but might ignore what happens after the phone rings. And so calculating your abandonment rate is going to tell you how much demand you're just literally dropping. And so when this spikes during high volume months, it's not really a marketing problem, it's revenue leakage. And so let's get started. I want to show you how to create this. And so what we need is we need to get the month and the year, and then also how many calls, per month, how many calls were abandoned, an abandonment rate, and then a target percentage to create this chart here. So if you look over here at this data set, we have, call ID, when was the call, when was the, what part of the day was it? Was it during, office hours? Where was the lead coming from? Why did they call? And then the queue, right? The agent. Here you have time, then you have, wait time, talk time, all these different things. And so this is the main thing we need is, was the call abandoned? Yes or no? And so we need this column and then a call date and time, and then that's it. Because what we can do is we can strip out the month and the year from the date. So I'll show you how to do that. So to get the month equals text, and then here, comma, and then 4 M's. And that'll give you the month for that, cell. And then to get the year, same function, text, but this time 4 Y's. And now you get the year. And so you can see it changes down here, February, March, April. Okay, so now you know how to do that. I'm going to delete that because we already have it here. And so the next thing we need to do is we need to get a unique list of the month and the year. And so the way we do that is with equals unique. So unique, and then you can just click in cell, Q1 here, control shift right arrow, control shift down, and then you have a unique list. I'm going to copy this and then paste it as values by pressing control C to copy, and then control shift V to paste. And so now we just want to see, how many calls, and then how many were abandoned. And then from here you can calculate, your, just say percentage or something. You can call it a call abandonment rate if you want, and then we have a target. Okay, so to get the number of calls, because every row here is a call, we just need to count the number of rows that have, January in 2025. Right? So we want to write a formula that'll count. Well, how many are there? That will count this here. So we had 273 calls for January 2025. And then as we drag the formula down, we want to count February, so on and so forth. And it's really straightforward. So because the data is in a table, here you can see the name of the table is table_calls. And so you should put your data in a table. If you have this file, then it's already it's already in a table format. And if you want this file, there's a link in the description, or you can just shoot me an email. Okay, so equals, so we want to count if the month is January and the month is 2025. So count if S. We want to use the if S. The S at the end stands for multiple criteria. So you have more than one criteria. So we know the name of the table is table calls. So we named the column month, and that's in cell B3. And then again, table calls year, and that's in cell C3. And that's our answer, right? So 273. And then for the abandoned, we need to do the same thing, but add one more criteria, and that's right here. No, sorry. This was the outcome right here, abandoned. So what I'll do, I'll show you how similar that formula is. I'll just copy this formula instead of having to type it again. Copy this, and then table calls outcome, comma, and you can type in the word abandoned, or you can just click on this cell and press the F4 key to lock it. And so now you have 38, double click that down. So what I mean by lock it is if you don't lock this, you can see this changes, because what's happening is that the formula is getting drugged down. And so if you go in and you press the F4 key, or you can type in a $ before the letter and before the number, and it will lock that to where it's always, E2. Okay, the percentage is pretty straightforward. It's just, how many abandoned calls based off of the total number of calls. Press Control-Shift-5 to format it. And then we have a target rate, let's say 10%. And so then underneath that, I'm going to do equals and then the cell above it. And the reason for this is so we can make it dynamic to where it'll change if you want to do like a little bit of like a sensitivity analysis. Okay, so now to create the chart, what I'm going to do is put the date here. Put the date here, and then equals January, and then quotation space dash space quotations and year. That way when we create the chart on the x-axis, the bottom axis will have these months. And so now what I want to visualize is going to be these two, and then I'm going to hold down Control to highlight these two, and then insert, and then recommended charts. And you can sort of see we're somewhere where we need to be, but the problem is that it's not perfect. So go to all charts, combo, and then here you want the percentage to be the line, and then you want both of these on a secondary axis, because if you don't have a secondary axis, then you have 14% on the same axis as 273, and we don't want that. So once you click that secondary axis and then OK, and now you can see you have a chart that makes more sense. And what we can do, right, so this makes perfect sense. Again, this is dummy data, but I work with, multiple HVAC clients. And so, I recreate these data to be as realistic as possible. But you can see there's spikes in calls in the summer months, right, which makes perfect sense here in Texas. Okay, so for this green line, I want to change it a little bit because it's taking up too much real estate. It's too thick. And so I'm going to double click on it, click on the little paint bucket, and then from here, I will, I don't know, maybe make it orange, or you can make it black, something to where you can see it. Well, that didn't work. Why isn't this working? Okay, black, but I want to make it a little bit thinner. I just want to see the line just to know where the benchmark is. And then you can make it, dotted or however you want. I don't know why this isn't working. Click here. Let's go here. Okay. So yeah, so that works, however you see fit. And then the final thing I want to do is I want to add the values to the chart. I don't want to do it for everything. I don't want to do this because that's way too noisy. So what I'll do is I'll click on the red line, and then I'll click on the little crosshair and then data labels. And then one final trick to finish this video up is I will click on the values, and you can see all the little boxes, which is what you want. And then I'll go here to home, and I'll just fill them, with a light, color. That way you can see the values, instead of having to drag them all over the place. And then we can call this, say, call abandonment rate percentage by month. And so, yeah, so that's how you calculate this. And it's useful because if you're, if you're abandoning a lot of call, then you want to work on that because that's leads coming in that you're just not talking to. Oh, also here, the reason why I did this was if you wanted to change this, right? So you can just sort of see if you have a benchmark, you can see, the lines where it's higher versus lower instead of having to change sort of everything here. But anyways, if you have any questions on this one, let me know. questions@databoards.io. If you need some help, recreating these data sets, there's a link to my calendar, or you can just shoot me an email. But if not, then I'll see you in future videos, and I'll see you in future lessons.